Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Super excited to have you join me today. If you are listening to this live or on the recording, very excited that you're here. Let's get right into it. I'm glad you're here because we're going to be talking all about something that's really at the heart of running a dental practice successfully. That is hiring. If you have ever hired somebody and it just didn't work out, you know how draining and costly and frustrating it can be. But the good news is, hiring doesn't have to feel like taking a shot in the dark. With the right approach and the right questions, you can increase your odds of bringing in people who don't just get the job done, but make your team and make your life actually easier. So let me share my screen for you today. Here we are. Okay. So our webinar today is 7 questions to ask yourself if you are hiring the right candidate. This is especially important for small dental practices because when you have a small, tight-knit team, every hire matters. You don't have room for drama or for turnover or for constant retraining. You need the people who want to be there and who want to make things better and not harder. So let's jump into it. Someone hiring someone is more than just putting a butt in a seat. Hiring the right candidate can be a daunting task, especially when it comes to the time frame needed for the position to be filled and how much it can cost to fill a position as well. So you want to be sure that you're hiring somebody who is a good fit before presenting them with an offer letter or closing out your job listing, because hiring the wrong person can cost you a lot of time and money. Sometimes it can feel like anybody is better than nobody, but that is where the problem really starts here. A butt in a seat is somebody who is a placeholder, but isn't that really like the main problem here? In this webinar, we're going to offer some helpful tips on how to make sure that it's a good fit. And before we dive into the webinar today, I want to say that I'm not an HR specialist or an employment lawyer. By using these resources today, you acknowledge that it has not been verified for the compliance of your office size, structure, or state specific regulations. So please use this information at your own discretion. These are the 7 main points that we're going to hit on, our 7 main objectives. So essential skills, culture and value, challenges and setbacks, long-term career goals, communication and collaboration, unique perspectives or ideas, and then reaction to feedback. So number 1, what skills and experiences are most important for this role? The first thing you need to ask yourself before even posting the job is, what does this person absolutely need to know or be able to do to succeed here? Every position in your office will have non-negotiables. For example, a hygienist, a dentist, they obviously need to be licensed, but depending on your state, maybe the assistant doesn't need to be licensed. But do you need them to know how to set up trays or to take x-rays without needing it to take weeks of hand holding to figure that out? However, what can you train on? Can you hire an assistant for their soft skills alone if you don't need a licensure or a certificate for this person? Your front office person, they need to be comfortable talking on the phone, taking payments from patients, having a base understanding of the mouth, maybe. Or can your front office team member be trained on that as well? Can you hire them again for their soft skills only? Um, this is where small offices especially need to think carefully. Not everything that they do on day 1 has to be perfect. Not everything that they do in week 1 or in month 1 has to be perfect, in my opinion. I can tell you a little, for example, I just hired an office manager and she had been there for 8 days. And the doctor's like, well, this, and this is wrong. And I'm like, What does your onboarding look like? What does your training look like? There was a lot of questions that I had asked, but he was a bit of an aloof person. And so 8 days in is not a lot of days when you don't have somebody there to train you and you have to figure everything out on your own. So some skills can be taught pretty quickly if they're familiar with some things that they've already done. For example, maybe if they've used Open Dental, but they haven't used Dentrix, likely they can learn that pretty fast. But if they've never used any dental software, that might be a little bit of a bigger lift. And in a small office, you might not have the bandwidth to train from scratch. This is where I advise offices to lean on platforms and information that's already out there, like Front Office Rocks or ADOM. Um, that's more specifically for the front office team members. However, you could use both of those for assistants as well. Maybe you could use other platforms like Spear or DentalFlix. Maybe your state dental association or AGD can provide your team members with education that you would like them to have. YouTube and Facebook groups also have a lot of information that your team will need to know, like softwares, for example. A lot of information is out there on YouTube about dentistry as well, just learning from the ground up. So I would also recommend make sure that when you are leaning on these people from these platforms, that the information is helpful and educational and accurate. So don't just say, go on to Front Office Rocks, and then you determine, oh, that's not actually what I wanted for this person to learn. Watch a few videos before you tell your team member to watch all of the series, right? Even better if you can put links together in the order of what you want them to learn, that would be even better. Why I say that is because maybe your endo practice, maybe you don't necessarily want them to learn about all general dentistry and the teeth numbers and like what happens in the shape of the tooth and the anatomy of the face and all of the things that matter. And then learn about general dentistry because typically that's the progression that it would work. If you're an endo office, you'd probably learn about the basics of dentistry and then jump right into endo and get a really good basis of that, and then switch into general dentistry so they again have a really good, well-rounded understanding and information just in general. So, you know, excuse me, be honest about which skills are flexible and which ones are critical, because otherwise you might end up hiring somebody that you resent when they end up struggling. So this is also a really great time to bring in your team members. This is going to do a few things. It'll help them to understand what hiring needs that you're going to have, what kind of a team member they're going to start potentially working with, and also what kind of a team member that they're going to potentially have to train as well. So a lot of really good points. And I personally believe bringing in your team members is a really, really important key factor that a lot of offices don't consider. And by team members, I don't just mean the hiring manager or the doctor. I mean actually like sitting down with the team members and asking, what skills do you think are most important here? What are the base skills that we need this individual to have? And kind of go from there. Number two, this one is huge. Does the candidate align with your company culture and values? Again, you can train for the skill, but you can't train somebody to have a positive attitude or a strong work ethic. And when I say culture and values, I'm not talking about the buzzwords that are on your website or in your handbook. I am talking about how your team actually operates. Do you actually have a culture where everybody helps each other? Or is everybody really independent? Do you, as the business owner or as the manager, really value punctuality and professionalism? Is kindness and patient care above all else in your practice? If you don't already have a mission or a vision statement, honing in on this number 2 slide here, this could really help you with creating that as well. you'll start to see signs of alignment or rather misalignment during the interview process if you have this information in place already. But where you'll really see it is if you are going to have these individuals come in for a working interview or a shadow day. Do they jump in and help? Do they interact kindly with patients and other team members, or are they gossiping already? Do they naturally seem to fit in with, excuse me, with your flow? Let's say even if they're observing only and they're not jumping in, are they standing around on their phone? This speaks to what they're going to actually do if they end up working for your office. If they already seem to ruffle some feathers or come off as uninterested or during a short working interview, imagine what it's going to look like after 90 days. Maybe you shouldn't allow them to start at all. I encourage people to hire slow and fire fast. And I know this can be really hard in a dental office. So my biggest suggestion to that is to always be ready. Always be willing to take applications or resumes or to have conversations with potential candidates, even if you're not necessarily looking for a new team member right now. I know that it's a lot of work on the front end to do all of this information, to maybe have job ads, to maybe have all of the job duties that you need and all of the minimum skills and experiences that you need for each role. But it's going to save you time in the long run if you sit down and have a team meeting with your employees to figure that out ahead of time. So also keep in mind, do you have any patients that are interested in dentistry? Do they ask you a whole bunch of questions about dentistry? Give them the tools so that they can so that they can learn and reach back out in a few weeks and see if they've taken action. I hear this often in an interview, a patient turning into a team member. If they have the curiosity, lean in on that. If you have noticed that they have really good response rates, that they always are on time to their appointments, maybe that could potentially work out. Misalignment with a candidate can turn into major problems later on. Don't ignore the red flags just because they look good on paper, in quotes, right? Look good on paper. I've been a hiring manager and a recruiter for 10 years now, and I have found a lot of similarities in top talent within dentistry. Some of these values you can utilize in your own office. Someone who is hungry, humble, smart, ethical, empathetic, organized, and self-motivated. Now, this is a generalization for all of dentistry. So you'll probably have some edits either to add or subtract for your office or for your position. But this is a really great start, and it's a really good blanket of values for most people in dentistry. Also, somebody who's going to align with your company culture might be somebody who oozes the love of dentistry. That's always going to be somebody who I jive with, is somebody who oozes the love of dentistry. So think about, what is your office known for? Why does your team love the office? Why do your patients love coming to see you? Highlight some of those reasons in your alignment to make sure that you're finding those traits and those qualities in the next hire. Okay, so I know that I haven't talked to you yet really about who I am, what I do. So these are my beautiful kids. Although I do have a husband, and I just we don't ever seem to be able to find a picture with all of us together. Last one I think we took of all four of us together was Christmas. So we need to get on that. But anyway, so I am your speaker, Wendy Aldhamen. I am the owner of Career Elevation. If you have found me, hopefully that is a good thing, and that you have found a lot of other good content along with that. As I mentioned in the last slide, I've been a recruiter and a hiring manager for 10 years. I have been in dentistry for 15, which is all of the experience that I have within the working world. I mean, I did have a few other short jobs here and there, but this is the majority of everything that I've been doing for the last 15 years. And when I'm not hiring, when I'm not recruiting, when I'm not creating these webinars to help people, I love hanging out with my kids. We love making magnet tiles together. Magnetile towers, even though they do like to knock them down instead, which is okay. I also do really like to bake and to cook, and to be outside, and to garden, and to do all kinds of hobbies that I don't really have time to do. But that's just kind of my life. So, and that is what it is. But that's just a little bit about me. Hopefully you can understand my passion, my love of dentistry, and clearly we're all brushing our teeth together too. So our third point today here, how does the candidate handle challenges and setbacks? Every dental office has its challenging moments. A difficult patient, a change in office policy, a busy day where everything seems to go wrong. You need people who can handle those situations with grace and with professionalism. That's why I always recommend asking some behavioral questions during the interviews, like, tell me about a time when you disagreed with a decision that was made at work. What happened, or what did you do? Another question might be, tell me about a time when something didn't go as planned as at work. How did you respond? Or what do you do when there's a large block that cancels same day, or no call, no shows? You're going to want to listen carefully. Do they take responsibility? Do they talk about problems? And for the cancellation question, are they trying to find things to do in that now free time? Or are they actively trying to fill it with work that needs to be done from other shifts? Or maybe family members who could also come in at the same time for somebody who else is already on the schedule. Again, problem solve. Or do they just blame and complain? These answers are sometimes overlooked, and sometimes you can even ask the references the same kind of questions. Question that you might ask a reference is, how did they handle feedbacks or changes in policies at your office? You might get a very honest answer that helps you decide if they're flexible or if they're difficult. If you have red or even orange flags in the first or second interview, they should probably be in the. I have never seen a maybe candidate, somebody who is an orange flag. I've never seen a maybe candidate turn into a long time hire. I personally like to say, if they're not a hell yeah, then they're a hell no. Number 4, what are the candidate's long-term career goals and how do they align with this position? Growth can be a great option within your own company if you have the option to offer. But it's also good to know the candidate's future aspirations and to gauge that if that's going to be a long-term and good candidate for your office. Or maybe they're going to plan to go back to school in the near future, which could cause a change in their schedule. While it's great for candidates to have goals and aspirations, you have to think about what's going to be worth it to you and to the office and to the patients and to their resume and to their history. In order to find this out, you're going to have to ask this question in a friendly way. And I would suggest you to avoid looking at your list of questions while you're directly asking it. My question that you might ask is, I know sometimes we don't always know what tomorrow is going to look like, but what are your hopes for, say, the next 1 to 2 to 5 years down the line? And then just listen and get interested and be intrigued by their answers. Don't just ask the question to ask. Actually care about the person who's sitting in front of you. Another question that we can ask to help them understand their long-term goals is, why do they enjoy their job? Or my personal favorite question, if money, time, and education didn't matter, tomorrow you could do any job in the world, a real job or a fake job, what would that job be? And then again, get curious. Maybe ask why they haven't done it. Maybe it's something that they're planning to do in the future. And then this is the time that they could tell you. Maybe you've already read the stat up there in the corner in the green little circle, but 30% of new hires leave within the first 90 days, the sources force. This is likely due to poor onboarding and training processes, or the personalities within the office or the leadership personalities. So don't just hire to hire, that's what I'm trying to say. I often reference a stat that I cannot seem to find where that stat's from, but 90% of new graduates or new to dentistry people leave their first job within a year or less because they don't know what questions to ask. They're relying heavily on the office to give them advice, and the office is guiding them through this. So why I say that 90% of new graduates leave their first office, because I want you to ask them quality questions to really make sure that this is going to be the long-term fit if you are going to hire the right candidate the first time. Sure. Excuse me. Like I said, they don't always know the right questions to ask. We always want to say that we're the best office out there, but we're not for everybody, and that's okay. We all collectively need to be doing a better job all around of not just putting a butt in a seat and then eliminating those who we can see who are already in the office. We can see that they're not a good fit. Just eliminate them if they're not a good fit. I know that that is really difficult, but it's going to be worth it. Can the candidate effectively communicate and collaborate with others? In dentistry, communication and teamwork are huge parts of the daily job life. If a candidate cannot professionally communicate and work well with others, even if it's, quote, not their job, end quote, they might not be the best fit for your office. Fire them before they even start. You don't have to actually fire them later if you fire them in the interview process. So ask yourself, after the interview is all said and done, sit down, think about it, take notes before the next day. When your interview is done, how well did the candidate communicate during the interview process? Did you have to drag answers out of them? Or did the conversation flow easily? Or did they leave you with few word answers at every question that you asked them? If you are struggling to get answers out of a candidate when you're in the interview, you should also stop and think, as the interviewer, am I the problem? How much am I talking? Are there a lot of distractions for them? Can you see this person is visibly stressed? Can you lower the stress level for them? Nobody enjoys interviewing as a candidate, and also few managers enjoy the interviewing process. So that's a dislike on both sides. Since you are more in the driver's seat, what can you do to help lower their stress level? To help the candidate, I like to ask while in the interview, if you're okay with sharing, what's something that you're passionate about outside of your job? No answer is a wrong answer, because I often get questions like, do you want me to talk about dental? Do you want me to talk about my personal life? No, and then I will tell them no answer is a wrong answer. Allow them to answer in any way in hopes this is to get more questions on the topic that they like for you to ask about. It's to get them more comfortable, to break the tension, to ease some stress from them, which this is your job as the person who is in charge of the interview process. Yes, you might not also like the interview process, but they probably like it a lot less than you do. You already have a job. Either they're trying to get out of their bad, negative, toxic job, or they don't have a job and they probably need money. It is your job to make them feel comfortable in the interview process. So do your best with that. So also in terms of collaborating, if we were to work with this person for or train them next to them for the next week or month or quarter or 6 months, would you want to continue working with them? This is a question you're going to ask yourself after they leave your office before you give them an offer letter. Do I think my patients will want to continue interacting with this person? Are they confident but not cocky with their answers? Do they hold a good conversation while in the interview process? If you were a patient, would you feel confident giving this person your personal information, your social security number, your credit card number, your money? Even if you're hiring for a non-clinical role, those things, those answers or those questions are still a no, then don't hire them. Those things are a soft skill, and you can't train on a soft skill. You can train dentistry, but you can't train their personality. When learning about the candidate's background, it's important to take note of how past jobs and experiences help them gain skills that could potentially spin into new ideas or growth within their next position at your office. So my question number 6 is, what unique perspectives or ideas can the candidate bring? It's a good thing to think about the environments that they've worked in. It can help diversify your office as well. This is where you can also fold in what they're passionate about or what their dream job is, potentially. Now, don't give unrealistic expectations and high hopes that you're going to bring something into your company if you don't actually see it happening. I'll give you a for example. I had an interview with a candidate just a few days ago where she said if she could do any job, she would love to be a lactation consultant. I told her, as she's a hygienist, you totally could. She said that potentially being a lactation consultant tied into her unusual background. She used to help pregnant mothers within dentistry and FQHC, and then their child's first dental visit. She wanted to help in between there because she knows that there was a lot of basically missed potential, and she wanted to help with those in between stages. I said, I told her the ways that it could totally work in her role and it would make sense. Now, if I was her direct hiring manager, I would ask her a few things. But keep in mind, I would start the conversation in the interview process, but then also some of these questions are going to be for after hiring. I would ask her after she's hired or like in the onboarding stages, if you are really interested in being a lactation consultant, put together what you're hoping to do, what the education is that you need to make that happen. What marketing ideas do you have? If there are areas outside of the dental office, where can we attract new patients for you as a hygienist and lactation consultant now? After asking these questions, I would have her come back to me with her thoughts and ideas. Now, is that a perfect world for every office to have a lactation consultant? Hell no. Is this something that could work in some offices? Yes. Also, keep in mind that this is my approach, and this is what has worked personally with my team members. But if they don't end up following through, maybe it's not a dream that they actually want to chase, and that's all right too. But check in with them about a month after the conversation to still gauge their interest. Ask if they still would like to pursue. And if they still do, ask when they can get the information to you. This is showing leadership, generating ideas, and also generating potential additional patients, which most all offices need. Another stat here in this little bubble, 70% of workers say that they gain a sense of purpose from their work. Are you helping your team members feel a sense of purpose? Getting back to the other perspectives for this slide, not every great hire will have the same background that you expect. Some are going to vary a little bit, and that's actually good. For example, somebody who has worked in a large corporate dental setting may have ideas about helping you with efficiency or with systems that could help your small practice, your small office. Someone from an outside industry might bring strong customer service skills, where then they can teach the rest of your team, either your front office team members or your back office team members. So when you're interviewing, ask questions like, what's something that you implemented or suggested in a past role that improved the team or patient experience? Even if they are brand new to dentistry, their life and work experience matters, and it can be learned from. I personally have one of my favorite books is called Rookie Smarts by Liz Wiseman. And it essentially, in a very, very short, brief amount of time, it essentially is saying that you can learn from somebody, even if it's their first day of work, they've never been in this field. You can learn from somebody in their first week or their first year. So even if they don't have 5 or 10 or 20 years of experience, you can still learn from anybody at any point in their career. Again, even if it's their first day. Small offices especially can benefit from team members who have worn multiple hats and then bring fresh ideas. Diversity of thought and background can help your office grow and innovate. Yeah, Destiny says that's so smart for the lactation consultant. I know, she said, I know many people didn't realize that breast milk has sugar in it and it will cause decay if it's not being brushed off. Absolutely. And because she was from has a background from an FPHC, there was a lot of misinformation that they were getting just kind of in general. And so that was, I think, one of the main reasons is because, the kid might come in at a year or two old and then they have rampant decay because the parent didn't know that you're not supposed to put the kid to bed with a bottle, or you're not really supposed to breastfeed all night long, especially if they have teeth. And so those are some of the reasons why that, and also she had mentioned tongue tie and lip release and how that can make such a huge difference in the breastfeeding journey as well. All right, our final slide today. Well, our final point today. How well does the candidate react to feedback and willingness to learn? Did the candidate mention how they handle constructive criticism already? Some candidates are upfront about these things and they desire professional development. Being able to effectively take in a concern and make changes needed for the office to run effectively is important. Asking things like, how do you feel about employee reviews? Or are you comfortable with being told in a professional way that something could be done better or differently? Sometimes this is hard to figure out in an interview, so maybe ask this question. In the last 5 years or so in dentistry, in your office or in general, what technology changes have you seen or are you excited about? Personally, as somebody who oozes the love of dentistry, I have a ton of things that I could talk about for way too long, truthfully. So gauge their answer. Even if this person is non-clinical and it doesn't seem like there is a lot of technology to be had, there still is. They still should have an answer. For example, front office, dental intel, insurance verification processes, how AI is helping to populate emails or newsletters or websites or marketing. One of the questions that I mentioned in the last slide that can also help here is what's something you implemented or suggested in a past role that improved the team or patient experience. This is another way to help you gauge their willingness to learn within their role. Hiring doesn't have to be a gamble. My hope is that with this webinar and these questions, I hope you feel that you're taking a more calculated risk and it's not so much of a gamble for you or for the office. If you would like assistance with this gamble, let me help you. We love helping build office's dream team. So we have a few options for you. So we have a done for you hiring where we pick up 95% of the hiring and recruiting efforts. We can also be a sounding board for anybody who we interview and see if it's potentially the right fit or maybe not the right fit in your office. We do hiring and onboarding coaching, an intensive to help you so that you can do recruiting and hiring better for this role that you're going to be going into, as well as any future ones. We're going to be the ones helping you get your job ad up and open, what your values and your traits are for this person, what your minimum experience level is going to look like. Also helping you with your Indeed platform. We have online courses similar to this webinar today, but it goes much more in depth about many specific things like how to create a job ad or where candidates are looking and how to create your best face for your candidates to see you. We help with virtual assistant hiring. And then we also do help with career and hiring coaches for individual team members as well. Thank you so much for joining me in this webinar today. Super, super excited that you were able to be here. If you need me, I would love the opportunity to help you. This is my cell phone number. You can call or text, and this is also my personal email. My website is here. If you are able to scan this, you're of course welcome to do that as well. This QR code is going to go straight to my website, where it will bring you to my website, but also to the area of webinars and courses in case there's any other webinars or courses that you may be interested in. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this has served you. If you need me, if you need my help, I am here for you. I want to make your next hire the right one and hopefully the first time, right? Okay. Thanks for joining me. Have a fantastic rest of your day.